I smell something awful. Smells like dead fish.
Some monsters terrify you. Others make you want to give them a hug and a budget. These are the cheesy but lovable beasts of 1960s B-movies. Awkward, foam-limbed, and totally unforgettable. They crawled from the sea, mutated by toxic waste, and apparently dressed by someone who thought sea monsters needed googly eyes, rubber gloves, and hot dogs for teeth. But you can't stay mad at a creature that looks like it lost a bet at a seafood buffet brawl and is just trying to crash an annoying beach party. These radioactive rejects waste no time, surfacing next to a sunken ship, murdering a girl mid-tantrum, and proceeding to massacre an entire slumber party like it's their own twisted pajama jam. They even attack department store mannequins out of sheer monster frustration. Relatable. And how do you stop them? Not with guns, not with science, with sodium. Good old table-scorching sodium. By the end, our heroes are tossing sodium bombs like they're in a chemical food fight, turning fishmen into flaming seafood platters. It's a mess. It's brilliant. It's pure drive-in monster mayhem. Reptilicus is what happens when Denmark tries to make Godzilla, using a sock puppet, some fishing line, and pure national pride. Excavated from the frozen tundra and accidentally regenerated from a severed tail, thanks science, this prehistoric beast grows into a rubbery leviathan with the grace of a wet noodle and the roar of a dying vacuum cleaner. And when he attacks, oh boy, buildings crumble, stock footage trembles, and terrified Danes run from what looks like a parade balloon having a nervous breakdown. He also spits green slime, melts tanks, and occasionally just stands around flapping his jaw like he's waiting for cue cards. But somehow you root for him. He may not be agile, convincing, or remotely intimidating, but he's got something better. Floppy charm, undeniable commitment, and the distinction of being Scandinavia's first Kaiju flop star. If you've ever wondered what would happen if a killer bath mat came to life, the creeping terror is your answer. This monster, and I'm using that term generously, looks like a pile of carpeting, some garden hoses, and a bad attitude all stitched together.
My God, what is it?
It slithers very slowly across the countryside, devouring victims who quite literally have to crawl into its mouth. Seriously, the actors had to assist the monster in eating them. It's less of an attack and more of an awkward group project. The film is famous for its almost complete lack of synchronized sound. Most of the dialogue was lost, so the movie is narrated like a nature documentary written by a sleep-deprived alien, which somehow makes it even more surreal, like you're watching someone describe a half-remembered fever dream. Despite all of that, or maybe because of it, the creeping terror has become a beloved relic of bad cinema. It's slow, it's lumpy, and it looks like it smells like a flooded basement, but somehow it still manages to crawl its way into cult movie history, and maybe your weird little hearts. After a Martian attack leaves him damaged, an android astronaut stumbles through Puerto Rico like a space-age Frankenstein's monster who got lost on the way to NASA. But the real monster? That would be Mole, the Martian's mutated pet and tormentor of captive women. He's a hulking, snarling creature with bulging eyes, cauliflower ears, and the posture of a rage-filled linebacker stuffed into a rubber suit. The plot involves Martian invaders kidnapping Earth women to repopulate their home planet. Because of course it does. It's the 60s. And the space monster's role is basically to grunt, growl, and toss around intruders while trying not to trip over the set pieces. He's not subtle or elegant, and definitely not coordinated, but there's something lovable about a creature who's just doing his job. Terribly. When you hear Triphibian, you might think graceful amphibious beast. What you get instead is a family of rubber-suited monsters who look like they were built from spare bird lizard parts and raw enthusiasm. It all starts when a greedy expedition finds a baby Gappa on a remote island and, in classic B-movie fashion, decides to kidnap it and haul it back to Japan like it's an overgrown souvenir. Cue the baby's parents. Two towering kaiju who burst out of the ocean, wings flapping, beaks screeching, and completely ready to wreck everything in sight until they get their kid back. The Gappas are giant, awkward, and clearly full of emotion, which you can tell from their flailing limbs and haunted Muppet eyes. They're stomping, city smashing, and yes, a few surprisingly heartfelt moments. Because beneath all the destruction is a simple story. Bring back the baby. The suits may wobble and the science may not science, but the Gappa family earns their place in the Monster Hall of Fame. Proof that even giant monsters can be a little squishy inside. The so-called eye creatures in this movie are rubbery, lumpy aliens with a few randomly placed eyeballs and arms that fall off and crawl away like they're staging a solo career. The costumes are so slapdash that you can spot athletic shoes and zippers on the creatures in broader shots. The plot? Teenagers, aliens, government cover-up. Basically a remake of Invasion of the Saucer Men, but with less budget and more padding, in every sense. The monsters attack slowly, awkwardly, and explode into a cloud of smoke when hit with a flash of lights. It's less take us to your leader, and more please don't bring a desk lamp. And yet, they're lovable. They don't walk so much as shuffle apologetically into frame, trying their best to menace, but mostly just confusing everyone, including themselves. They see all, but they trip over most of it. On a quiet island off the coast of Ireland, science goes rogue, as it tends to do in the 60s, and creates something unspeakable, unstoppable, and suspiciously boneless. Enter the silicates, tumor-like, self-replicating creatures that move like sentient meatballs and dissolve every bone in your body with a slimy, slurping noise you'll never unhear. The effects are gloriously gooey, with monsters that look like giant stress balls that leak chow mein if you squeeze them too hard. But somehow the film plays it completely straight, and that's what makes it so charming. You've got Peter Cushing in full serious scientist mode, brave villagers, and some of the most unintentionally hilarious autopsies in horror history. The silicates may look like props that were left in the sun too long, but they're shockingly effective and genuinely creepy. Proof that you don't need fangs or claws to be terrifying, just an appetite for orthopedic destruction. A team of astronauts blows up an asteroid to save Earth, but they bring back a little souvenir: green alien goo with a bad attitude and a talent for multiplying. The goo transforms into cyclopean space goblins with noodle limbs, jelly bean bodies, and the screech of a dentist drill. They zap people with electric shocks, burst into rooms, and bounce around the space station like radioactive pool toys with grudges. The effects? Glorious nonsense. You can see the seams, the strings, and sometimes the actors struggling not to laugh. But what it lacks in polish, it makes up for in sheer monster commitment. These things slime, thrash, and scream like they just stubbed every toe they have. And somehow it's beautiful. The green slime is one of those rare films that give you everything. Astronauts shouting techno-babble, monsters wobbling on cue, and enough glowing eyes and tentacles to fuel 10 episodes of vintage sci-fi mayhem. It's loud, ludicrous, and 100% lovable. Just don't expect to get that theme song out of your head anytime this century. Sure, they weren't terrifying, but they were memorable. And sometimes that's all you need. Whether they waddled, wobbled, or just waved a tentacle awkwardly, These monsters left their rubbery mark on cinema history. Got a favorite cheesy creature that I missed? Drop it in the comments. Please like, subscribe, and remember, if the monster costume has zippers, you're watching the good stuff.